Hey guys, let's get more news about Dallas, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Trade proposal brings former number 2 overall pick back to Commanders. One of the great things about the NFL is that, every now and then, a player will get a second chance with a franchise where things didn't go as planned the first time around. The Washington Commanders have a unique opportunity to create that type of storyline and fill a crucial need on its roster by making a trade for New Orleans Saints edge rusher Chase Young ahead of the November 5 NFL trade deadline. Young was the number 2 overall pick by the Commanders in the 2020 NFL Draft and was the 2020 NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year before injuries took his career off the rails, and he was eventually traded to the San Francisco 49ers midway through the 2023 season. Young signed a one-year, $13 million contract with the Saints in March 2024. Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox put Young on his list of the top NFL trade targets ahead of Week 8 after the Saints lost their 5th consecutive game and dropped to 2-5 following a 33-10 loss to the Denver Broncos. Trading pass rusher Chase Young, who is on a one-year, $13 million deal, would provide number 2025 cap relief, Knox wrote. However, it would net the Saints some valuable draft capital. Young has tallied 1.5 sacks and 13 quarterback pressures in 7 games this season. The knee-jerk reaction to any trade proposal that brings Young back to Washington would probably be that it violates the NFL's rules on players being reacquired via trade. Those rules essentially ban any team for trading a player then reacquiring him via trade for 2 years, the specifics of which were shared by the NFL Network's Ian Rappaport on his official X account on September 30. However, the wording of the NFL's trade rules might contain a loophole, a technicality, if you will, that might allow for Young's return to the Commanders via trade. All of the language banning teams from reacquiring a player via trade for 2 years uses the terms assignor club, which in this case, is the Commanders, in relation to assignee club, any club beyond the assignee club, or combination thereof, which in this case is the 49ers and, presumably, the Saints. For Young, while the assignor club would have been the Commanders in the case of his trade to the 49ers, you can make an argument that the assignor club tag no longer applies to the Commanders because Young became an unrestricted free agent after the 2023 season, which was the final year of the 4-year, $37.5 million rookie contract he signed with the Commanders in 2020. From that purview, Young no longer has an assignor club because once he became an unrestricted free agent he also became the de facto assignor club because he alone was making the decision on where he would play in 2024 and all ties to the original assignor club had been severed. The bottom line is once he became a free agent, the NFL's rules on reacquiring players via trade should have no longer applied to Young. Bleacher Report's Matt Holder listed edge rusher as one of the biggest weaknesses for the Commanders headed into Week 8 and with Washington sitting atop the NFC East with a 5-2 record. Young was actually part of Washington's last playoff team in 2020, when they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Wild Card round, the same year he was named NFC Defensive Rookie of the Year and made his only Pro Bowl. Following a torn ACL suffered in Week 10 of the 2021 regular season, Young missed 22 of the next 25 regular season games, including all but 3 games in 2022 and had just 1.5 sacks in 2021 and 2022. Since leaving the Commanders, Young revamped his career in 2023 with 7.5 sacks, matching the total from his rookie season, and even had a sack for the 49ers in an overtime loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 58. Who's the next man up if 2024 is McCarthy's finale? It's probably safe to assume that the only way Mike McCarthy keeps his job next year is a Super Bowl appearance. It might even need to be a Super Bowl win. And that is assuming that, after 5 years of this circus, McCarthy declines to come back at all. Judging by some of the facial expressions we've seen already this season during press conferences, he might be tired of the Jerry Jones show. Could you blame him? Which leads to a lot of speculation. If this is McCarthy's grand finale, who will become the 10th head coach in the history of the Dallas Cowboys? Bill Belichick's name has been coming up a lot as the Cowboys' next leader. Some are even calling for McCarthy to get fired now and bring in the mastermind of the Patriots dynasty. He has the resume, along with 6 Lombardi trophies on his mantle. By comparison, Tom Landry was 74 when he coached his last game with the Cowboys. Landry's last 3 seasons all ended with losing records. The game had clearly passed Landry by. Belichick's last 2 seasons in New England were also losing seasons. The game has clearly passed Belichick by. So no, Belichick is not the answer. Bill Parcells was 62 when he took over in Dallas and managed to get 3 winning seasons out of the 4 that he spent in Dallas. But by age 66, he'd had enough and retired. In other words, no, the next coach of the Cowboys must not, be another retread. Nor should it be another type favored by Jones. Jerry Jones reveals major Cowboys coaching regret amid Mike McCarthy's uncertain future. As the Dallas Cowboys return to action from their bye in Week 8, fans are wondering just how much longer of a leash Mike McCarthy has left. The Cowboys head coach's seat has grown hotter by the week, especially following Week 6's disastrous 47-9 blowout loss to the Detroit Lions at AT&T Stadium. Even though McCarthy has guided the Cowboys to 3 consecutive 12-win campaigns, the franchise has 0 playoff success to show for it. It's also unlikely that Dallas will keep that trend going given the team would need to go 9-2 down the stretch to match that performance. With the Cowboys heading in the wrong direction, it's only natural that owner/general manager Jerry Jones would reflect on past regrets. During Tuesday's interview with 105.3 The Fan, Jones revealed to listeners that firing Wade Phillips during the 2010 season was one of his biggest regrets, hat tip Cowboys insider Joseph Hoyt. It stung Jones, knowing that Phillips eventually went on to win a Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator with the Denver Broncos. Then offensive coordinator Jason Garrett took over as the interim head coach following a 1-7 start under Phillips' guidance. The Cowboys ended up going 5-3 across their final 8 games, resulting in Garrett sticking around behind the bench until the end of the 2019 season. Back on October 15, Jones told 105.3 The Fan listeners that he won't be making any more in-season coaching changes. The fact that the 82-year-old billionaire openly regrets canning Phillips midway through the 2010 campaign likely solidifies that fact. While some owners are willing to take some risks, it's clear that Jones is fine with sticking with the status quo for the remainder of the season. He's often too proud to admit when he's made a mistake, and firing McCarthy within the next 11 weeks would suggest that he completely fumbled the Cowboys' season. At the end of the day, it might be time for Jones to stop living in the past. He was convinced that a washed-up Ezekiel Elliott could still be a number 1 running back. He clearly regrets a coaching decision from nearly 15 years ago. He's convinced that he's a great general manager just because of the Super Bowls that were won in the 1990s. Instead of pining for the glory days, Jones needs to wake up and focus on how he can make the Cowboys' present and future better. Now that he's firmly in his 80s, time is ticking if he still wants to see another championship run. Whether McCarthy finishes the year in Dallas or not, it's hard to imagine the Lombardi Trophy being in the Cowboys' immediate future. America's team heads into Week 8 with the 13th best Super Bowl 59 odds, plus 3,600 on FanDuel Sportsbook. And you, fan? What do you think of the situation of Mike McCarthy? Leave your opinion in the comments.